Charlie Dimmock,
Boys!
the Rich Brothers, and the Garden Rescue team have a treat in store.
Too much entertainment.
They have come to the rescue of hundreds of British gardens. Now it's time to look back and pick their favourites.
This looks really cool. Fabulous.
As they celebrate the very best.
I don't like it. Huh? I love it.
From extraordinary eco-gardens to exotic designs.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Gardens inspired by people.
Is this the garden that you dreamed of?
It is. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a thumbs up.
And places.
It's the most beautiful garden I've ever been in.
Therapeutic spaces.
Wow.
And the most extraordinary transformations.
Whoa. It is perfect.
Yeah, come on. I want it.
Welcome to Garden Rescue.
Top of the plots.
So, guys, what's going on today?
Well, if you boys can bear it, I'm going to choose my favourite gardens today, and there's been many, many of them.
Well, we tend to brag about quality, not the quantity.
No, keep calm, keep calm. I have actually chosen a couple of yours that I really loved as well. Needless to say, there is a pond in the mix. The first one we're going to look at is the one that we did, and it was really, really tiny, but we got so much in it.
Is that maybe Manjinder in Rutland?
Yes, top points,
yes,
8 stars.
Good guess.
A lot going on.
Every garden rescue is something to be proud of, but our first, Charlie's favourite transformation was for Manjinder, who hadn't paid her somewhat petite garden any attention for a long time.
My family come over quite regularly, especially my 2 nephews who are 5 and 3. And so therefore we want to try and create a space that we can all enjoy.
Although a tight space, Charlie's winning design managed to cram in a number of features to create the perfect cottage garden, including raised beds and a shed.
Wow. So for me, it's colour, cottage and education for your nephews.
The team get to work by first ripping up the existing turf with the turf cutter. Meanwhile, out at the front, Lee is making a start on the raised beds by sawing up old scaffolding boards. These can be picked up from reclamation yards nationwide.
It's going in, mate, it's going in.
Will it fit?
Will it fit?
Of course it'll fit.
One bed done, only 3 more to go. Before long, the turf is up, and after a quick once-over with the vibrating plate, the slabs can go down. Once the patio is laid, the team can crack on with the other features.
Oh, this is looking really good. Exactly what I wanted. Yet over there, boys, with the slabs.
Yes,
I
Mum.
love being the boss.
Oh, it's ready for it, is it?
This patio area is looking great. I mean, Manjinder literally had about 5, 6 slabs outside the back door, but I wanted to give her a big seating area, but I didn't want it to look too uniform, so we've mixed up paving to give that higgledy-piggledy feel. And then we've just got these raised beds, and I actually quite like that distressed look with the bits of spray paint, the reinforcing on them, sort of looks quite quirky.
In her design, Charlie left a space for a small garden shed.
And it's going to be made out of pallets.
Lee's upcycling some pallets that Manjinder already had in the garden. You'd never know, though, the timber looks as good as new.
This is looking really good, Lee. Because we're going to have a green roof on this as well. So we're going to put a bit of timber, a bit of soil with some perlite in so it's not too heavy, and then plant some sedums and some sempervirens and succulents so it'll actually look quite pretty.
Before long, it's ready to be put in position.
Yeah, down there. That's pretty much plumb on the back of this.
That's cool, isn't it?
That looks like a little cabin, doesn't it?
I know, and what's the great thing is because this paving's up, when you, boys, plant that green roof up on there, you'll be able to see it. It'll look really nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
High up on Manjinda's wish list was something to appeal to her nephews. Fruit trees can be a great way to pique a youngster's interest in the garden.
This is a cherry. It's a sweet cherry, so cherries fall into two different groups. You've got the acid cherries, which are the ones that you cook and make cherry pie with. Ooh, yummy, yummy. And then you've got your sweet cherries, are the ones that you eat raw. And I'm also going to train it as a fan.
Just in time to see them.
Charlie's idea for a green roof on the shed will give Manjinda yet another planting opportunity, this time a high-rise one.
Lee's made this lovely shed with this tray on top as well, which means that we can plant up a sedum roof. And with that, we've added a bit of membrane on the bottom, which is going to stop the wood from rotting. And then we've got this drainage layer here of gravel. And then all we're going to do then is add some soil on top and then put the plants in.
So we've got a lovely little mix of sedums and sempervivans, of house leeks here. So we're going to put a nice little arrangement of all of these three on here. And these little guys, so like this one here, a nice little trick. Look for the ones in the nursery that have all the little babies in them, because actually this is just one plant here. So what you could do with these is you can just pick them off like that and then plant that on your roof there and it'll grow into one of these big rosettes. So actually you're getting loads of plants for your money. So that's a neat little trick. How are you going to arrange them? I can't really do it from up here.
I'll do it, Dave.
I'll have to leave you
I'll
with
have the fun bit.
In their natural habitat, alpine plants like this are well used to barren and exposed conditions with low levels of soil, so they work well in a roof garden.
That looks really good from here.
Finishes it off nice, doesn't it?
It does, it does.
We're planting little babies now.
Oh, well,
We're here for hours.
There is a lot more else to do, so, you know, you don't need to be there for hours.
Wow, I don't know about
We will.
So I've used these canes to make a fan shape radiating from the base, and then it's a case of taking the branches and tying them on like that. And then that one's going to go up there like that. Get the idea? It's a bit fiddly, but definitely worth it.
With just a few finishing touches left to do, the team are done. Manjinda's dull and uninspiring backyard has been transformed into a space full of character that both her and her nephews can enjoy. But will she like it?
Do you want to open your eyes?
Well, it's amazing. Thank you. You've created an amazingly magical space.
I'm sure that'll be a much-loved cottage garden with lots of use from Manjinda and her nephews. It was quite a formal cottage garden, a sort of knot garden effect. This planting here is much more natural cottage planting with lots of things self-seeding. So the aqualigias have self-seeded. Foxgloves are great because they will dot themselves around the border. And if you're going for a cottage feel, mix up the colours so that there's lots of different colours in the gardens. We've got pinks and blues and purples and whites and a lovely scabious. And that will give you the cottagey effect that you're looking for. So don't try and be too neat and tidy. Just plant them close together and pop them in. And don't be overzealous with your weeding in the spring. Get to recognise seedlings of the self-seeders like the aqualigia and the foxgloves. Now, my next favourite might surprise you. It was a crazy transformation for Ollie, who was bike mad, and his mum and dad.
Charlie's next favourite top-of-the-plots transformation saw Sally and her family's average garden in Appleton given a thrilling makeover for their cycle-crazy son, Ollie. Charlie's design featured a racetrack circling the garden, packed with weird and wonderful features.
The idea is to give different textures on this pathway. We've got this sort of bank of timber around there, so there's a slight curve to it.
Right.
And then I did think it would be quite fun that he can, if he wants, zoom into Mum and Dad's bit, and we'll have a different type of paving there, so it's sort of rumbles, so maybe cobbles.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
The team get to work on this mammoth transformation, but the first job for Charlie is to create a bike rumble strip through the new patio.
So what is this stuff?
3mm limestone, crushed limestone.
So no cement in it?
No cement in it. It's just it's normally the way you'd lay block paving.
Oh, of course, and then you put sand in on the top?
Yeah, so
Right.
we just lay that out, screed it out, we drop the bricks in,
Like so?
we tap them into place.
And tap
Normally you'd run a whacker plate over it and they'll all just squash into place.
Right.
Then you put like a kiln-dried sand on top and it will sort of interlocks them all and traps them all in.
So even I think I could do that bit.
You could do this easy,
Yeah?
Charlie, no problem.
All right, I'll do that bit.
There you go.
And she's not the only one having fun with the track.
Now we're actually creating the start and the finish line of the racing track. Now obviously that would be defined by the checkerboard pattern, but that would stand out a little bit too obvious in a garden. So Charlie had a lovely idea of using these cobbled sets. Now this one here is a dark limestone, and this one here is a light granite. And I think they're going to add a nice little element to the racing track.
I actually think this looks really cool. It looks like a tyre track to me.
With the final pieces of the track slotting into place,
Well done, these are looking pretty good. Pretty fun as well.
Yeah, I agree.
the brothers have also made something to turbocharge the racetrack, some chevrons. But will the boss be impressed?
Hey!
They look great. I mean, they look like they'd be really complicated.
No, it's just
What
like...
do you mean? They were. You underestimate. We made it look simple.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You're the two right people for that.
Don't we do?
Right, turn it the right way and ride them out.
Onwards and upwards.
Another feature that was key to Charlie's bike theme was a rather unique archway.
So this is a bit of fun. Using a bit of rebar. It's cheap and cheerful, so if that one goes in there, not too wide. And then we've got these wheels that we got from the Reclamation Centre, free of charge, because Oliver likes his wheels in whatever form. I have to say they were into a great big knot. Oh, there you go. And going to be great for climbers. So we're going to attach those on up here. Maybe a bit of this mesh as well. But when Oliver's shooting through on his scooter, he'll know that it's wheels everywhere.
Although the racetrack is taking centre stage, the garden also has to please Ollie's parents, so the team disguise it with shrubs and plants.
I've got a rather lovely shrub here. It's a hibiscus syriacus. That's the species of a hibiscus that are hardy in the UK. My idea was that, you know, when Sally and Ian are sat here, they don't really see the scooter track. All they see are lots of really pretty plants. And from there, they are just surrounded with colour and scent from the jasmine and honeysuckle.
There's a race to cross the finish line, and with some final planting, the garden is done. Before, it was a dull, flat space, with little fun to be had for either children or adults. Charlie's design combined an exhilarating racetrack and a tranquil space for the parents. Time to see if it pleases all the family.
You can open your eyes. So 1, 2, 3.
Wow! Look at that! How amazing is that? That is fabulous, isn't it? Wow!
But it's the Racetrack that really wins the day.
Very cool garden, that, Charlie. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I think you two secretly wanted to stay there and play, didn't you?
it's no secret.
Now, my next favourite garden is actually one of yours, boys.
Ooh, which one?
Do you remember Bernard and Cecilia?
Yes.
Of course.
Wanted a Maltese garden, but with lots of homegrown veg
Yep.
and a Mediterranean vibe.
Yeah, loved that one actually. Really cool design. Definitely Mediterranean, but it was quite contemporary. And then a little bit of country garden, English country gardens thrown in for good measure.
Since moving to their house, Bernard and Cecilia hadn't done anything to their garden, but they dreamt of growing their own produce. So the Rich brothers' incredible design featured raised vegetable beds, a dry stone wall, and an orchard.
So we've got these small dwarf apple trees,
Okay.
and they're going to create a lovely kind of gridded orchard where we've located a nice little seating space amongst it.
If you're hungry.
And if you're hungry, just lift up, pick one out, have a bite.
There it is, look.
Big one.
First job for the landscaping team is removing the old decking.
Right, should we get all hands on deck?
Which they carefully do so they can reuse the wood for the vegetable raised beds.
Right, get the digger in.
While Kyle clears the patio area and Chris makes a start clearing up the old grass, out the front, the Rich brothers and Charlie have arrived.
Look, and got the Maltese weather.
And around the back of the house, the boys are delighted by how much has been achieved.
So the guys have been working super hard, made a dramatic difference to the garden already. One of the big differences is down here, brand new patio. So this patio then leads on to one of the main features in the garden, and that's this angled pathway.
And I've got to say, this is one of my favourite parts of the garden. It's this lovely stone wall that's going to define these two sections of the garden. And it's a lovely texture, and it really has a little nod to Malta. And it's lovely to see that they've already got produce in this garden. This greenhouse is just packed full of tomatoes, a bit of a bumper crop. You see Charlie's already in there, making
Come and
good.
smell this, come and smell this.
Oh, go on then,
This
I didn't-
takes me back to working in a commercial, the smell of tomatoes.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Pinching them out.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it smells fantastic. They've got loads of stuff in it,
I
lots
know.
of different varieties.
Lovely to see, isn't it?
Harry's first task is building the dry stone walls.
And these walls are very evocative of the landscape in Malta. Now, I'm building this wall in quite a traditional manner. I'm not using any cement. Rather, I'm using scalpins, which fills the void, and then I'm using tie stones as well, which help to link all the wall together. Now, the way that these have been cropped makes them very easy to build, because it's almost like a brick, in the way that I'm just making sure I cross the joints with the next one, but just building up. And that's what's so lovely about this, is that it's kind of supported by friction and gravity. It's a really enjoyable way of building a wall, and it's very different to the way I normally do it back in Wales. But I think it's got a lovely simplicity about it and a lovely geometric shape to it.
Ready
That's the job.
for me
Ready for you.
to plant up with
I
the
know.
herbs.
Yes, I
All
know.
right, come on.
I'll leave you gaps. How about
You,
that?
okay, all right then. And is it
can have
easier
it.
building with them than...
Oh, look at it.
It's
I
just
mean,
like
if
stickle
I can't
bricks.
build a wall with it, I may as well not bother.
Well, I can't wait to plant it up.
Yeah.
While all the bound gravel surfaces go down, Charlie's finally got her chance to plant up the top of the finished dry stone wall.
And now the herbs for this lovely dry stone wall. I mean, when you go on holiday, whether it's Spain, Portugal, or even Malta, I'm sure we've all got memories of wandering around and getting this really strong aromatic scent, and it's going to be in full sun. Now we've got the lemon verbena, which is yummy. Now it's going to get quite big, so it'll fill this space, which will make this a bit more intimate around here. But also, Harry and David are putting in a lot of herbs like thyme, which is great because it will sort of trail over the edges, but also they're making this into a seat. So it's going to be part partition, part seat. And of course, when you then sit on this, thyme will take being trodden on or sat on, and they can use it for cooking, and it's fantastic for bees.
Meanwhile, David makes a start on the all-important raised vegetable beds.
So it's just really simple construction with these veg beds. So we're just screwing the deck boards in at the corners, and then to brace them, to keep them square and keep it strong, we're putting in some of this 2x2 timber here as well. So we've got one layer, we're going to be raising it to 2 layers, so nice and high. And it's really this simple, and again, it's just about adding that nice bit of produce into the garden, but really defining this as a traditional working garden with a lovely modern twist around the outside of it.
The team are progressing well, and Harry is planting the orchard and entertainment area with apple and pear trees.
Now, these fruit trees will add a gorgeous romance to this part of the garden, and that's what we wanted to create, a lovely kind of atmosphere of this old English garden. They've got a lovely blossom, but they also don't grow too large. Now, these are dwarf rootstocks, so they're not going to grow much larger than 2 metres, which means we're still going to retain a lot of the sunshine in this back area. We're going to plant quite a few of them.
The garden is nearly done, and there's a frantic push to finish the planting. What was an unloved waste ground has been transformed. The unproductive and unappealing outdoor space now fuses English country garden with a Maltese touch. But most importantly, it'll deliver plenty of fruit and veg. Time to show Bernard and Cecilia.
3, 2, 1, open your eyes.
Oh, wow. This looks good, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Well done.
Really elegant garden. I love that one, and so practical. Loads of veg, places to sit. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. Well, yeah, it was a lovely garden. Hopefully they've got tons of vegetables growing in it this year.
Gardens being practical, that is one of the big themes. Now, the next one, do you remember Burton-on-Trent?
Ooh, what's that one?
Chris and Naomi, the garden that was on a big, steep slope.
Oh, yeah.
And she'd been in an accident, so it had to be accessible.
Very complex, though, if I remember rightly.
Yes. It is amazing that you can just draw a line.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you've got to build it.
The only things enjoying Naomi and Chris's garden were the chickens. So Charlie's winning design broke the space up into different zones to suit the whole family. And it featured a gentle paved slope so Naomi could easily access it.
This section here is the sunken garden, the lower section. And I'm thinking that lends itself to the chickens.
The landscaping team get to work quickly. First, building a retaining wall at the bottom of the garden so it can be levelled.
We're going to bring all the soil from this side of the garden down into that corner. That'll give a nice, square, level lawn area down here.
Wall's in place, and it's time for Steve to do some serious earth moving. And with the ground finally levelled, the landscaping team crack on, building the paved patio and the all-important gentle slope to give Naomi access to the lower section of the garden. Meanwhile, the brothers have been tasked with building a hanging box to grow salad in that can be raised out of reach of those hungry hens.
It's going to be a little bit of fun, and it's going to spruce up a little area in the back of the garden for the chickens and for Naomi.
Right, should we crack on?
Yes.
The salad box will be suspended from a wooden scaffold, and the brothers have already sawed the timbers to length. All that remains is to screw the 2 bits together.
Ooh, nice. When creating a structure like this, it's key to use bolt screws rather than ordinary screws, because you're going to be able to get it a lot deeper into the wood. It's going to hold it a lot stronger, and especially with a structure like this, it's going to hold a bit of weight.
But it isn't long before the boss comes to check on their progress.
It's going to be a pot or a basket on the end of it that we're going to make.
Right.
And then we're going to have some edibles in it.
OK, like
Some
cut and come
salads.
again salad stuff.
Yes, exactly. So when it's up here...
It'll be out of the chicken's way.
Yeah.
OK.
Too bitter.
Then drop it down. Chickens
The chickens.
can come, have a... OK. You can always hang some flags on it.
Happy with the brothers' rather inventive design, Charlie takes herself off to the front garden for some peaceful crafting of her own. She's got an idea for some rather unusual recycled planters.
So I'm going to use these jam jars, and of course you can't drill a jam jar. So what we're going to do is put a big layer of gravel in the bottom. That way, when you put the water in, you'll be able to see the water, and then when the plant uses all the water up, you can see that it needs watering. So a big layer of water, a bit of potting compost. I'm going to use these sempervivums here. And the great thing about these succulents is they really don't need much in the way of compost because they're alpines, so they'd naturally be growing in crevices between rocks which have very little soil and get very limited water. There we go, see? There you go, so that looks quite cute. And then I'm going to attach them to a piece of board that I've saved from the skip, and then use these Jubilee clips to hold them to the board. And then I've got these little jam jars that I'm going to pop in some night lights.
In the back garden, Lee's been cracking on building a timber pergola.
Right, this is it, crowning glory. Only started.
Whilst the brothers have nearly finished their raised salad box.
The moment of truth, no.
Right, hoist the flag, Captain.
Turning my sailor's knots.
There we are.
The chickens will be happy, as is Charlie, because she's starting her favourite part of any garden, the planting.
I love these cornuscusas.
They are, I mean...
They get these beautiful white bracts on them, which look like leaves, but they're white, and they just have a little tint of pink, and it just gets covered with them. And this one's been grown as a multi-stem shrub, so it'll fill that whole space. Make that seating area nice and quiet.
With the planting done and the final touches added, the garden is finished. What was an awkward, unloved space has been cleverly divided into different zones for all the family. And it now has easy access for Naomi. But what will she and Chris think?
OK, you're allowed to open your eyes.
Oh my word! Look at that! I can get down there and... oh, wow.
That garden was definitely an engineering marvel, but great to know that Naomi can actually use the garden properly now.
Yeah, I wonder if the chickens like their veg box.
They went.
I thought it just gone mad.
That directly translates as, we love it. Thank you, Harry.
So we're looking at my favourite gardens over the years, but what about my favourite plant? Impossible to choose, but I have to say roses are up there. They're lovely plants. You get colour, scent, and they go from ground cover plants to rambling roses that will cover a tree. Now, they're quite hardy, but there's certain things that they do really like. They do like to be fed regularly. They're quite hungry roses, and you need to do that probably twice a year, in the spring, about March, and then after the first flush of flowers. Use a rose feed, so it's just a case of sprinkling it around the base of the plant. Now, roses are deep-rooted plants, so they can normally find water, but if you're establishing them, then you will need to water them, or if you get a dry patch in the summer, it's definitely worth watering them. So give them a good soak rather than sort of lots of light waterings. And after you've finished watering, it's definitely worth mulching around the base of the plant. I'm using well-rotted compost here. Keep it about 4 inches away from the base of the plant, so the mulch traps moisture in and also helps to suppress weeds. The other thing to remember, deadhead regularly. It'll keep those glorious flowers coming back. Now, my next favourite garden is in West Sussex, and it was for Claire and Paul, and guess what? The main feature was a pond!
Paul and Claire wanted a wildlife haven for the family to enjoy, and Charlie's design ticked all the boxes. It was hedgehog-friendly, had bird and bat boxes, a bug hotel arbour, and of course, a giant pond.
Water is a must for wildlife, and by having an actual pond rather than just a water feature, you'll be able to get frogs and newts in there. There'll be shallow areas so the birds can bathe in it. Bring your swimming trunks.
With so much to do, the landscaping team crack on with the groundwork. With the turf up and the pond underway, Seb and Scott can crack on with Charlie's walkway and pergola.
So the pond's all dug out. I've gone for an irregular shape because it's a wildlife pond. You could go for a formal shape in a garden sort of near the house, but irregular will look nicer in this garden. So egg shape, we've got lots of different depths. So 2 foot in the centre so it doesn't freeze up and it gives the wildlife somewhere to hibernate. Then we've got a shelf all the way around the edge. That's about 10 inches deep. But then what we have got on a wildlife pond, it's quite key, is have this sloping edge so that any wildlife that gets into the pond can easily get back out. Hope it's big enough.
It's too long.
It's all right. Better to have a liner bigger than you need than smaller than you need. Time to fill the pond up. It'll take a while.
But it's not just pond life that will get a new home. The boys are also installing some bird boxes.
It's important when you site your bird box to put it as high up the tree or high up the building as possible, because that means it's out of the way from predators. Nice, that's the bird box in.
Harry's also made a bat box from some timber.
It's a very similar concept, really, but it's all fixed, and the only thing here for them to enter is this little 10 to 15 millimetre gap.
While David and Harry hang the bat box, Charlie starts on her marginal plants for the pond.
The marginals are the ones that sit in the shallow water that's like 4 to 10 inches deep. And they are really important in a wildlife pond because the wildlife, things like dragonfly nymphs and damselfly nymphs, need the plants that stick out of the water so that once they've grown big enough, the nymphs, they actually crawl out onto the leaf and then split open and turn into the dragonflies and damselflies. One of my favourites is kingcup, flowers really early in the spring, the first thing really to flower in a pond. And then lythrum, which gets these tall spires of purple flowers. Lovely.
Another key job is to make the garden hedgehog-friendly, which Charlie's on to next.
The biggest problem for hedgehogs are fences, wooden fences like this, because they can't get into the garden. And we really need to help our hedgehogs out, because back in the 50s, there was about 35 million hedgehogs, and now we're probably lucky if there's 1 million. So I'm going to dig these gullyways, which will be little entrance and exits all round the garden, so that the hedgehogs can go from one garden to the next, because they don't just live in one spot. They go round looking for food, and I'm planting a selection of natives, so things like hawthorn, yew and hornbeam, which they naturally encounter in the wild. But also I'm going to plant pyracantha because they apparently love the berries. So it's got white flowers in the spring, which is great for the bees, but then in the autumn you get the berries on them, which they'll eat. And if you do hear a sort of snuffling, snorting sound at night, that will probably be the hedgehogs looking for food.
With the arbour frame built, it's time for the brothers to make it bug-friendly.
This arbour is a key feature in Charlie's design, and not only is it going to be a great spot to sit and enjoy the garden from, but it's going to be a little home for wildlife and invertebrates. The guys have done a great job putting together the structure, and we're just adding the shelves. So what we've done is we've screwed in these shelving supports and then cut to size and slotted in the shelves, and on there's going to be the log pile, and logs are a perfect thing to use for this, aren't they?
They are. By introducing more wood into the garden, you're actually inviting more invertebrates as well. And they're the bottom of the food chain, so in turn, they're going to attract all that wildlife into the garden.
There we are, check that out, done.
I think it looks really nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, very happy.
It's the final push, and the garden is a hive of activity as the team finishes the planting. And the old, uninspiring space has been transformed by Charlie's design, creating a magnificent wildlife haven. But what will Naomi and Chris think?
You can open your eyes.
Oh,
My goodness.
it's a little bit different to what it was like before.
I can't believe it. It's completely, it's amazing.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, that's good.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes in the garden, you need to keep those critters at bay. Now, I'm going to be planting these cabbages out, but Charlie's given me some wonderful netting, which is going to help to keep away the flies and all the bugs away from these beautiful plants. And I'm going to do this simply by using these bamboo canes. And they're going to go around the cabbages in a line. And I'm going to use the netting, put it over the top, but I'm not actually going to pierce it to tie it on. I'm actually going to weigh it down with some rocks or some old bits of tiles found around the garden. Well, I'm not sure this is the exact colour of netting that I would have used, but Charlie does tend to like the colourful things in life. So I'm just going to rest that over the top. By simply using some tiles or some bricks or some stone just to weigh the netting down, it means that no holes develop. Therefore, you're stopping anything from getting inside. It's a wonderful way of doing it, and if you need to extend it, it's very easy. You just allow a little bit more netting to unravel. Now, this reminds me of the garden we did for Emma and Steve in Hoveringham, and Charlie created an absolute bomb-proof raised veg patch using just this netting.
Charlie's final top of the plot's favourite garden was for Emma and Steve. Although their garden had a picture-perfect view, there was one big problem.
If we put deck chairs or anything out here, we're right amongst walking land here. You can walk all along the river, so people stop at the end of the garden and just stare in at you.
So the Rich Brothers design focused on solving the privacy problem by creating a sunken seating area. But it also incorporated a vegetable patch and an old boat the couple wanted featured.
We wanted to put a nice little bench in, possibly the one you're sitting on right now, and then have the front of the boat sticking out from the bench so you guys could sit down in your little boat, look at the view, and have some fun, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
With their work cut out creating a sunken patio, the team clear the garden so they can bring in the digger. Before he can start digging, Andy needs to clear the area of the weeds that have colonised the whole of Emma and Steve's garden. But it's not just the weeds that are coming out. Some of the plants are for the chop too. With a clearly defined area to work with, Lee and Steve can lay the sleepers that will make up the retaining walls of the sunken seating area.
Bang on.
It's bang on.
Next, the sleepers are fixed into place. The sunken decking is almost complete, which is just as well as the bosses have arrived.
Now, the garden is coming along beautifully. We've made a massive impact already. And one of the main parts of this garden is this sunken space here. It's gorgeous. And the whole idea of it is that Emma and Steve can walk out of their house and they can walk into this lovely private sunken space.
And also, it's lovely because it makes a great seat, and that's why we've kind of integrated it in with the rest of the garden, because when you drop down, you actually get rid of that view of the road, and it really does accentuate the river and the fields and trees beyond.
Whilst the boys take in the view, Charlie's working hard moving the vegetable bed into position.
Right, square up with that.
Then it's time for Andy to break out his trusty digger again to fill it. And carpenter Lee is constructing a critter-proof frame.
and Steve had in the past tried growing veg, but they weren't overly successful. So I'm hoping to give them a bit of a boost by making it free as far as possible of pests and disease. So by putting a nice frame on the raised bed, mesh, with this mesh, the flies, it's so fine, the flies can't get through.
And while Charlie tackles the bugs, the brothers are ready to do some planting around the sunken deck.
Now this shrub here is Griselinia, and the reason we've chosen it for this garden, not only for its natural, simple leaf, but actually because it grows up to be quite shrubby, quite bushy, and situated around the seating area, it's really going to help to stop those winds. And also you can see here, it's got this quite delicate, almost inconspicuous flower. It's evergreen, and that's really important because that means even in winter, it's going to help protect the garden from the wind.
Charlie has asked Lee to cut some lengths of copper piping because she's taking no chances when it comes to critter-proofing the veg bed.
This is to stop those pesky slugs and snails. You might have seen it on pots where you stick tape on, but this is the maxed out version of it. Permanent copper pipe, which just got all the way around the container. And basically what happens is the slugs and snails don't like crawling over copper.
At the end of the garden, the boys are getting nautical with the boat.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a bench situated here at the end of the path. So when they're sitting down, they can look over the front of the boat and then out onto the view. But what we'd like to do, just to add it and maybe kind of unify it into the garden a little bit more, is we'd like to build a little bespoke table in here. So when they're sitting down, they can use the table and then they can look at this beautifully crafted boat.
There's a few final jobs to finish things off to the brothers' satisfaction.
What do you think is going here, Harry?
Oh, I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah, lovely.
A little feature at the end of the path.
Perfect.
Lovely.
And with that, the garden's finished. What was an unloved, unused space has been transformed into a beautiful private garden with a centerpiece sunken deck. But will it float Emma and Steve's boat?
Oh my goodness!
That's incredible.
Oh wow!
It's huge.
Yeah, nice.
How did you extend the garden by
Yeah.
that length?
There's no road now. Go all the way across.
Absolutely unbelievable.
That garden has to be one of the more perfect spots with a perfect garden to fit the spot, boys.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a lovely garden because it had a split level, and it's nice to be able to play around with that because you can create different spaces.
Yeah, really create a cosy atmosphere, hunkered down from the wind and the roadside.
And unusually for you two, a theme.
I know.
Many talents, see? Well, we do hope you enjoyed a look back at some of Charlie's favourite gardens.
We'll see you next time for some more Top of the Plots.
Charlie Dimmock,
Boys!
the Rich Brothers, and the Garden Rescue Team have a treat in store.
Too much entertainment.
They have come to the rescue of hundreds of British gardens. Now it's time to look back and pick their favourites.
This looks really cool.
Fabulous.
As they celebrate the very best.
I don't like it. I love it.
From extraordinary eco gardens
Thank you so much.
to exotic designs.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Gardens inspired by people
Is this the garden that you dreamed of?
It is.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a thumbs up.
and places.
It's the most beautiful garden I've ever been in.
Therapeutic spaces.
Wow.
And the most extraordinary transformations.
It is perfect.
Welcome to Garden Rescue.
Top of the plots.
Right, Chaz, what are we talking about today?
Today is all about those exotic gardens we've done where we've put a spin on it. So we've gone from Malaysia to Zambia, India via Watford.
Broad section.
A big broad section.
Almost those gardens that make you feel like you're on holiday.
Yeah. Do you remember Mike and Lizzie in Bourne?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Bit of a Caribbean theme.
Ah,
he was from the Caribbean, so they wanted that vibe in the garden.
Every garden rescue is something to be proud of, but our first exotic top of the plot's transformation was to bring a taste of the Caribbean to Mike and Lizzie's rather bland garden.
Hello.
Hi. The Rich Brothers design introduced tropical flavours with a new seating area, lush planting, and an inventive use of some old barrels.
For us, it's all about that outdoor lifestyle. Eating, dining, barbecuing, drinking.
There's a lot to do, and the team's first job is to get rid of all the old hard landscaping.
Well, everybody gets decking down, but one thing first. Better move my brothers before I start dismantling.
And before long, the cement's been mixed and the contemporary-style flagstones can go down. With the old wooden deck ditched, Lee's making a start on the fixed seating.
I'm just laying these down on the side, just to give it a bit more stability. And then I'm going to run 2 course on top of this, upright, and get some render on them. That's the plan.
The couple already have some exotic plants in their garden, including some cordylines, and Charlie's first job is to tame them.
These are cordyline australis, and people used to think that they weren't very hardy at all, but these green ones are actually very robust and will do quite happily outside. You don't need to protect them at all. The common name for them is Torbay palms because they were used down on the seafront in Torquay, and if you go down to Torquay, you'll see they're huge and they look just like palm trees. So if you really want to go for a tropical jungle effect, cordylines are ideal.
Well, they are gorgeous, aren't they? And they're going to add a lot to this garden, but they can tend to get a little bit mental.
Well, they're sort of a bit blobby at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, lovely sort of fronds of foliage, but see, there's really gorgeous trunks to them. So if we can expose that a bit, it will really pick up that tropical sort of theme. And what I thought is if I save these up into bunches, you see, I can make you a nice grass skirt.
Oh, please.
For your rumba.
My rumba. My rumba.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's enough.
I'm sure we'll have plenty.
As the exotic transformation marches on, Lee's finished the blockwork seating, and now he and Andy add a one-coat render, whilst Charlie makes that grass skirt for Harry.
Right then, sir.
Look at that. My dream did come true.
They tell me that the style is long this season.
The style is long. You've even plaited the end there.
I have. Do you want to cable tie that onto him? And then
Cable tie? That means it doesn't come off.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is that my day ended now, is it?
Yeah, there you go.
Ended, just started,
that.
mate, just begun.
All you need now is a coconut and a straw to drink out of.
Hey! Right, I'm back to work.
Oh, another piece here, look, bonus.
With Charlie getting into the spirit, she's had an idea which will give the garage a Caribbean twist. Sheets of corrugated iron are easy to pick up at reclamation yards nationwide. Lee screws uprights to the garage wall, and then it's ready for the corrugated iron.
Right, first bit going in. Bit of brute force and ignorance is required.
You do brute force.
Very satisfying. David and Harry, David and Harry.
The brothers' design also features an inventive way of recycling some brightly painted barrels.
You look at them and you initially think oil containers, but nay, they had a different and more exciting past. They actually were used to contain fruit juices, probably colour coordinated, nice and tropical flavours. So what we're going to do is put some herbs in, put a few plants out here. Great position that they can walk straight out of the kitchen, pick a few herbs, put them in their drinks, or take them back into the kitchen.
And because they were only used to transport fruit juices, it means that they've got no nasty chemicals in them. So they're free to plant up with edibles, but what we've got to do now is fill them.
On the other side of the garden, Charlie makes a start on painting the framework of her corrugated iron creation.
So, clad it with our nice rusty tin, and just to smarten it up, I'm going to paint the timber black, and that should sort of bring it all together as one. Now, if it were me, I would have painted this really bright colours, but the boys want it tasteful. They only do tasteful. I do tacky and bright.
The boys have now filled their barrels with pebbles and soil, and Charlie's got some plants.
Have some
Timing.
mint and coriander.
Lovely.
What do you think? What do you think of me rustic,
I
posh,
love
Caribbean
that.
posh? I made it posh just for you boys, because you didn't want it too real.
No, I love it. I think it's brilliant.
Very elegant.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, you lose it now, but not in a bad way, the way that it feels fitting with the garden. Which is
I'd
quite nice.
stop talking now
Yeah.
if I were you.
Done.
Right, what's the next thing then?
Let's get some stuff in here.
Planting herbs outside your back door is great for cooking, but they also discourage flies because they hate the smell.
We kept it really simple by just planting up some mint and some coriander. And the mint can be great in drinks and cocktails, and the coriander is going to go great in salads and maybe on the barbecue.
With the garden nearly finished, the team crack on with the rest of the Caribbean-inspired exotic planting.
Round the back of the seating area, got these gorgeous Miscanthus sinensis. I've got these lovely purple seed heads that sort of just waft over the seating area, and then it's picked up with this sort of prairie planting with rudbeckias and crocosmias. So this will just be a sea of grasses and hot yellows and reds, so it'll look fabulous next year.
With some turf laid and the last plants added, the garden is finished. It was an unloved, rough old space that's been transformed into a Caribbean tropical treat. But will Mike and Lizzie think it's an exotic paradise?
Whoa.
Wow! Oh my gosh, no way!
Completely changed.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That reminds me of the Caribbean.
Hey, you two! I think this Caribbean vibe's gone straight to you.
This mocktail has, I'll tell you that.
Whoa, what's in this stuff?
Underneath this exotic cordyline.
I know.
Definitely a lovely spot.
Yeah,
is
it
this
really
one
is.
mine, is it?
Oh, yeah, that one's yours
Oh,
there.
thanks.
The umbrella's a bit damp for some
Yes,
reason.
obviously been for a swim.
Well, guys, from the Caribbean to the Far East, do you remember that Malaysian-inspired garden we did in Bitton
Oh, yes.
for Lewis and Amanda? I think we'll raise a glass to that.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a project, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Lewis and Amanda's garden left a lot to be desired, and it was far from exotic. But Charlie's winning design was set to change that, with a screened patio and a centrepiece moongate, which is a traditional feature of Oriental gardens.
Now, going with your slightly oriental feel to it, this is a gravel area of white and grey with lights sunk in to the gravel. So it's very zen, so you can sit in your patio area and just relax.
The landscaping team crack on. Andy starts by lifting the existing patio so it can merge with the new patio stone. While Lee makes a start on the moongate, which will be made from weatherproof plywood.
So I've marked my centre point here. I've just put a screw in there. I've got my string line now all wired up with a pencil on. Just a matter of marking it out, and hopefully it'll be in the right place. So we'll give it a go.
The area for Charlie's new patio is cleared, The hardcore is down, and now Andy can start to erect the uprights for Lewis and Amanda's new screens.
About bang on.
The skeleton of Charlie's design is coming along nicely.
Ooh, look at this, it's lovely.
Looking smart, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's made this seating area much bigger, hasn't it? 'Cause
Yes.
it's all a bit bunched up here, wasn't it, really? So this is the old paving that Lewis put down. He did a fantastic job of it. And to marry the two up, we're going to put planting through. So it's a good way of joining the opposite sort of styles together. And then we have the moon gate. So the reason they chose my garden was all about the moon gate. So it's got to look good, it's got to look right.
Lee's been doing an amazing job constructing the moon gate. It's looking gorgeous. So basically, all he's done is he's got these 4 upright posts, and then he's sandwiched them with his plyboard. And the reason it looks so good is because he's actually screwed it from inside and glued it, so you can see no screw head. So it's got a really seamless, clean finish. So really beautiful bit of construction, but the worry now is getting it into place and making sure it fits in the holes that have been dug. Right then, everyone, I think we need a little bit more muscle on the moon gate, please.
Why is that?
Let's get it in place.
Oh, it's gonna be heavy.
Right on. Yeah, good height, guys. Nice work.
With all the muscle in the garden joining forces, the moon gate is coaxed into position. The structure is temporarily propped in place while the team secure it with quick-drying concrete and leave it to set.
Well, that went easier than I thought, I have to say.
Yeah, not too bad, was it?
Well, no, it looks fantastic. So Lee's sort of doing the fiddly finishing touch. He's putting this piece of timber ply on the inside to finish it off and make it look really smooth. So this is the moon gate. What's the moon gate? Well, you can see now it's basically a wall with a big circular hole in it. Now, traditionally, they would have been made out of a stone, but this ply, it's not indoor ply, it's treated, so that it doesn't sort of break down in the rain and the bad weather. It doesn't laminate. We're also going to seal it again with a varnish, mainly because I want to bring this lovely grain out. But I think it looks fantastic, and I know Amanda's going to love it.
Next job for the brothers, creating the screens, which will add height and privacy to the garden.
So this garden is all about textures and shapes. So what we're going to be doing to continue that theme is we're going to be making these rectangular walls, which we're going to fill with these circular sections of logs.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna use 2 upright posts like this, nice and sturdy and been cemented into the ground. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the rebar. And the rebar, we're gonna have these 2 little faces which are gonna fasten on either side of this post. So it creates this kind of sleeve on the inside. You know, you can see we've got nice little small ones, larger ones, they're all different shapes, so it's just a fact of putting them together and also being just the right size.
Yeah, I could do that, could I?
I'm not getting something right.
It is just a massive puzzle, isn't it? It's nice that Charlie's giving us this job.
I feel like to do a puzzle, you need a grandma and a grandpa, don't you, to be honest? They know how to do the puzzles the best, not us.
Bespoke screening like this is fantastic, but pergolas, trellis and rose archways can be bought and would work equally well.
Whereabouts should we put the last one?
Up a little bit. Down a little bit.
With the screening finished, the boys bring a flavour of the East to the garden with a large cherry tree.
Right. You want to knock any more blossom off? When you look back up against the kind of blue sky, it really does highlight that gorgeous blossom.
Yeah.
For me, a cherry tree is an essential part of an Oriental garden, and it really does signify that arrival of spring.
Now, the cherry tree that Charlie's chosen to put in the garden is Prunus accolade. My favourite thing about it is its growth habit. So you can have it single stem or multi-stem, but it actually grows up and branches out. So it's perfect for a smaller garden. It won't get higher than 6 to 8 metres, but it creates that lovely canopy. So positioned here, beside the lawn and the patio, it's going to branch over and create that lovely bit of dappled shade that I think will be necessary in such a sunny garden.
The tree may be in, but there's plenty of other plants to be planted. And David concentrates on dressing the beds around them.
Charlie's making a pretty bold move with the gravel. So I know she loves contrast, but putting black on top of white is definitely a very bold move. But I think it's going to look great. It definitely emphasises that oriental vibe that the garden already has. And it's going to create that lovely bit of interest and that nice little wandering journey for the eye.
The team are almost done, and with some final details, they've finished. Lewis and Amanda's rather boring blank canvas has now been transformed into an exotic Malaysian-inspired garden with its stunning centerpiece moongate. And now it's ready for its grand unveiling.
Please open your eyes. Yeah?
Yeah! Wow, that's incredible.
The way it all links in together is just absolutely fantastic. It is perfect.
Well, I love that moon arch. It really set the garden off and it brought a little bit of the east to Hampshire. Now here, I've got quite an exotic looking plant. It's called Fatsia japonica. And as you can see, it has very large palmate leaves. And it's got a beautiful kind of creamy spherical flower from September to October. So I'm just going to plant it in this little opening in the border, which is really going to show it off. And it's nice because there's already some exotic plants in this border. We've got some cosmere, we've got some red hot pokers and a yucca as well. So it's a lovely way to showcase different forms and different textures. In general, it's a hardy plant that can survive UK winters. They like partial shade and avoid planting them in the full sunshine. And it definitely gives you that exotic look. Now for an exotic garden in Northwood for Darshana and Noyan, inspired by the Mughal Empire in India.
Our next exotic top-of-the-plots garden was for Darshana and Noyan, whose desolate backyard was in a truly terrible state.
I think it's that thought of not even knowing where to start with it.
But the couple have grand designs for their miniature plot. They love the idea of a Mughal garden. They're famed for their geometric patterns and water features. So the Rich Brothers design was careful to incorporate these elements with an impressive tiled garden with a space to relax in.
Within these Mughal style of courtyards, water is really important. So we've introduced a little fountain that you can see here. I think it'll just be a really gorgeous place to be.
That looks amazing.
First job for the landscapers is to clear the garden and mark out where the new tiles will go. The brothers' design involves two types of tile, creating clean, straight lines with intricate edging detail. These will need to be placed exactly right.
65 centimetres wide it is, so 65 out to here.
The existing concrete surface might be an eyesore, but it does provide an ideal base for laying the tiles. But around the edges, however, where the flower beds are going, that concrete has to come up. Bonnie and Andy begin to construct the Mughal-inspired water feature using concrete blocks, while Scott starts laying those all-important tiles. The blue edging tiles really bring that Mughal feel, whilst the plain tiles are laid at a 45-degree angle to trick the eye and make the area feel bigger.
Contrast works really well, doesn't
It's going
it?
to look amazing when it's finished, yeah.
Probably a bit fiddly laying the two together, but...
It is, yeah, but it's going to be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The team are making great progress.
I'll stand on it and then you can just saw away.
And now David and Harry can start work on the arches for the back wall.
Originally, we did want to paint it straight onto the wall, but it actually turned out the wall's in a bit of bad condition, some of the mortar's falling out. So what we're doing is we're using marine ply, and that's going to give a lovely, clean, crisp archway. And marine ply is perfect for it rather than normal ply, because it's much more suited and tolerable to the outdoor conditions. And as you can see, you might not be able to see it yet, but actually you've got the base of the archway here. We're just drawing the vertical sides of it, and at the top here is that ornamental archway style. Right, should we stand it up?
Yeah.
It's gonna look cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
One arch down, 2 to go. The Mughal-inspired water feature has been rendered, and it now has a steel trough inside it to contain the liquid. But first, it needs painting.
The great thing about white is it's going to really reflect the light in the garden and make it really zing and seem bright, which will really show off the light greens of the banana plants and the fatsias. And with the movement of the water, you'll get those dancing sparkles of light on the leaves. Should look glorious.
While the team finish tiling and create beds, Charlie's ready to fill up the water feature.
Now, the thing about water features and pumps is you have to have electric. Now, if you get an electrician in, it makes it expensive. There's a lot more preparation. But what we're doing is using a solar-powered pump. They have come on leaps and bounds in the last few years. So you've actually got a battery pack that charges up from the solar panel. And the great thing about this is, say it hasn't been really, really sunny, you can plug it inside for a couple of hours and it fully charges up. Now what I need to do is test the pump. Now this is the cool bit. It's a little remote control.
But sorting out the plumbing seems to have sent Charlie round the bend.
Calling Harry and David. Are you working out there or just drinking tea? I bet I know the answer. I can see him.
Can you see my eye or my head?
I can see your head and your eye. Do you like my little gadget?
What is it, an old phone?
It's the pump remote control.
Is it?
Got 4 settings on it.
Wow. Thumbs up.
Now all I've got to do is fill this without a hose. 1 bucket at a time. What a joy.
Good luck, Charlie. I think she's got at least 20 or 30 buckets to get that thing full.
The brothers are painting their arches with contrasting colours to create a 3D effect, giving the illusion that there's something beyond the arches themselves.
That looks all right.
That's good timing, Charlie.
It's finally time to start bringing in the lush green foliage that is so typical of Mughal gardens.
1 banana, 2 bananas.
Yes.
3 banana, 4. In fact, 6 banana trees are placed around the courtyard.
We've just started to place the banana trees. And what we're using Musa Beiju, and that's actually the hardest banana tree that you can get. So it's going to be perfect down here in London. Though if they do have a really cold winter, they will have to protect it. But the reason we've chosen them is just to really tie in with that Mughal courtyard theme. They're going to provide a really tall, dappled, lush green canopy, really exotic feeling, and then when the sun is beating down, they'll provide that lovely bit of shade.
The team now crack on with the rest of the planting. Everyone's getting stuck in. Well, almost everyone.
It's coming together nice, isn't it, team?
Yes, all this hard graft now. Over.
Hard graft, Harry, what?
Yeah, you just stood there with a plant in your
Oh,
arms.
it's hard. It's hard plant taking. Where's that cup of tea?
And with the final few plants dug in, a quick tidy, and some finishing touches, the garden is finished.
Have that one there. Lovely.
Beautiful, right?
You can't have a table without any chairs, can you?
Darshna and Noyon's bland backyard has been transformed into an exotic Mughal Empire-inspired garden. But what will they think of it?
Oh my God! Wow!
Wow.
It looks amazing.
Glorious.
Wow. It just looks like a different garden.
Yeah, this does not look like our garden.
Those tiles were beautiful, really set the garden off, and what an amazing transformation. I mean, it was just a concrete yard, wasn't it, when we started?
It was, yeah, and it wasn't very big, but at least it was a blank canvas, which meant it was really fun to design.
Right, from India to Japan. Do you remember my yoga zen garden in Bristol for Zoe and Johnny? Do you remember?
Ah, yes. Absolutely beautiful design. If I remember rightly, it was a taste of Japan in the heart of Bristol. And I'm pretty sure we did a very cool walkway. We did.
With all the bamboo.
Yeah.
No pandas.
The couple wanted an exotic and calming space to practice yoga in, and Zoe wanted to grow flowers for her wedding bouquet. Charlie's incredible design won Johnny and Zoe over with its raised Zen yoga deck, boardwalk and exotic plants.
So there's a little boardwalk that takes you through all this planting. Lots of bamboos, lots of green plants, white flowers, to this deck area that's raised up over the planting, so you'll feel like you're sort of suspended over the planting, and it will envelop you so you will be screened from the neighbours.
The team have their work cut out clearing the garden and constructing the Japanese-inspired yoga deck.
And I need somebody to cut this up here, a bit taller than us.
You're having height problems.
You're going to go on my shoulders now? Probably the other way around would be better. Oh, you'll never...
Oh, he's got him.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, perfect.
Lee knocks up a rectangular frame for the deck and cuts the corners off to create a rough egg shape. Then he and Steve add joists to strengthen the frame, while Andy and Paul prepare a level base. With the frame in position, supports are cemented in and the boards are attached on top. While the brothers start constructing the boardwalk off the decking.
You're not meant to be laying down on the job already, mate.
Oh, mate, look at that. I've got the short straw here.
Oh, OK, so you're on Zig, are you?
I'm on, yeah, Zig. That's short straws.
Zig
Don't
has short
sit
straws.
on it, whatever you do. No.
With the yoga deck finished, a hole is cut in it, so Charlie can plant a tree to create a shady canopy.
So the great thing about planting through the deck like this, it will make a feature plant of the tree, so it will look like a specimen planting, but it can root down into the soil beneath, so it will actually establish really well. So we're just putting a bit of matting in here to hold the soil in place. So we got a nice hazel.
You ready?
Yep. Look, oh, that's ideal.
I was slightly worried it wasn't going to go in then.
Next, Charlie adds further screening around the deck using some rustic timber.
So now I think I'm going to start about here-ish, yeah? Harry, does that look like it's upright, mate?
Slightly away from you.
Like that?
Slightly to you. Away.
Are you joking me?
No, just one more.
Well, a bit more.
Perfect.
All right, Paul.
Now it's just the hazel which is wonky behind it.
Cut the screws in. Watch the Cosmere.
Tree planted, and Charlie now tackles the bespoke copper-piped pergola with Andy's help.
So the whole idea is we're going to have 4 on each side, and they're literally going to go into these timbers there, like so. Get the effect?
With the pipes positioned, Charlie and Andy arrange them to form an elegant arch. As the garden really takes shape, Harry can start the exotic planting.
I have to say, as soon as you're up here, you have a completely different sense to the rest of the garden. It's got a very calming effect already, and that's why I'm planting Actea. I've got to say, it's one of my favourites. And it's a lovely plant because it has this simple elegance about it. It's got these vertical spires of white flowers, which really stands out in a darker space.
Charlie's also planting the flowers for Zoe's wedding bouquet.
We've got a nice climbing rose. I know an apricot colour is Zoe's favourite colour for a rose, and I really like this one because it's very delicate. There's something very pure about it, and I think it'll look fantastic in a bouquet, as well as the roses and sweet peas and the jasmine. For the wedding bouquet, I thought it'd be really nice to give another evergreen. This is myrtle, and I love myrtle. And traditionally, since Queen Victoria, she had it in her wedding bouquet. And ever since that, every royal that's got married, there's always been some myrtle in their wedding bouquet. So I thought that would be lovely, and I'm sure it will bring Johnny and Zoe the best of luck for their wedding next year.
With some final flourishes, the team are finished. And what was an uninspiring place has been transformed into this Zen yoga retreat. But will Johnny and his fiancée Zoe fall for its exotic Eastern charm?
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh my goodness!
You have been busy.
It looks amazing! Wow! Thank you! You're very welcome.
So that yoga deck at the back of the garden will be a really lovely place for them just to chill and relax and do their exercises. And by having the bamboo sort of flanking either side of the boardwalk, it will sort of calm them down before they even get to the yoga area. And bamboo is absolutely fantastic for creating a bit of a sensory feel. You get the lovely rustle of the leaves and you get the dappled light shining through. You can grow them in pots, you can grow them in the ground, best to go for a clump forming one. But what I will say is if you want to get the best out of them, it's definitely worth clearing the stems. So taking away sort of the little fluffy bits at the bottom, which exposes the canes. And depending on which variety you're using, you can clear up to about 1 metre up. The one thing I'll say about bamboos in a pot, make sure you water them regularly. They're quite thirsty plants. And you know when they need watering because the leaves roll up. So don't let them get to that stage. If the leaves are all rolled up, you need to water it. So you can see clearing the stems like that. You've still got the screening effect of the bamboo and the lovely rustly sound, but then you've got the beauty of the canes themselves. And now for our final exotic garden, Zambia via Watford.
This top of the plot's garden was for Archie and Manjula, who used to live in Zambia. They were desperate to bring some exotic African flavour to their rather normal British back garden. And the Rich brothers' incredible design certainly did that.
The main features are these slabbed areas, and these replicate that kind of cracked earth. So it's quite fragmented, quite architectural, and quite modern. So these lead you through the garden, and then this is where you cross this deck bridge over a natural water feature.
All right.
The landscaping team waste no time clearing the garden and ripping up the turf. Nearly everything must go. Once the garden is cleared, the next job is prep work for the patio. The mark makes a start on the wall, which will divide the eating area from the rest of the garden. The groundwork's underway, and Charlie's dug the pond.
So the boys are using a butyl liner. As you can see, the ground is very stony, so we're putting a good layer of soft sand down. first. Then we're going to put some underfelt down to protect the liner, and then the liner on top of that.
The brothers' design features this distinctive angular patio, intersected with irregular deep cuts. But to achieve this unique effect, they first need to lay the slabs, then cut out the shape.
We've gone for the idea of having this dried soil, this kind of cracked earth look. So it's quite fragmented, quite architectural, and all the patio slabs lead off each other. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring it back maybe about 200 mil from here and create a parallel line. That's for the next area of slabbing. And then this is going to be a lovely little run of gravel and maybe a little bit of interplanting, just to break it up, create that step over. It just should make the space a little more interesting.
Angles are everything in the brothers' design, and so with paving progressing nicely, David decides it's time for the block wall to get the same treatment.
Within the design, this wall helps to divide the garden. It creates a really lovely space at the back where the sun is. They're going to have that al fresco dining. It's where most of the activity will be. So it's lovely separating that from the rest of the garden. Now, what we're doing with this wall, it's not going to be the same as regular walls. It's going to have a peak, and that angular shape will link in really nicely with the patios in the garden. We've built this using lightweight blocks, which makes it really easy to cut, which is the next thing I've got to do.
The grinder makes short work of the block wall.
Now, it needs a bit of render.
The pond is also taking shape, and with the liner down, it can be filled. This is the centrepiece of the brothers' design, with its picturesque wooden slat bridge. And the boys have to get this right for the couple to be happy.
Nice. So we're just screwing down the decking boards onto the frame now. And what we're going to do, just to get that bespoke feeling like the rest of the garden, we're going to put up a line and we're going to cut a taper into the deck board. So it's actually thinner at one end and thicker at the other. And then that should just fit in with the whole shape of the garden.
One of Archie and Manjula's fondest memories of their garden in Africa was the wonderful fruit trees it had. And although Watford isn't quite warm enough for growing mangoes, a luscious fig tree isn't a bad compromise.
So I haven't got it right against the wall, and I've also put some wires in. With figs, if you fan them out, you get a lot more fruit on them. So we're going to sort of train this down and tie it onto that wire. This one's going to go on up, and then we'll train it onto the next wire.
But the fig tree isn't the only exotic plant going into this garden.
Ready?
The boys have chosen a sumac tree, the staghorn. It's actually native to North America, but will add plenty of colour to the garden across the seasons.
So why the sumacs?
Do you know, well, not only for its amazing autumn colour and the kind of way that the red links in with the whole garden, but it's got lovely details like the kind of furriness of the stem, the staghorn.
Like the antlers, isn't it?
Yeah,
and they're fluffy, really tactile. I think it's beautiful.
And it kind of evokes the African feel as well. This kind of large canopy.
For that savannah look.
Savannah, exactly.
Here in Watford.
Cool.
The garden is really coming together, with a variety of plants dotted around. And tying it all together is the rusty red earth gravel, which runs throughout this exotic garden. The transformation is nearly complete, and the boys can't wait to get the bridge in and see what it looks like.
We'll put that wall there then.
I know.
So let's pass this over to...
Ready?
This way. Back that way, mate.
Don't rest it on the wall there, boss.
It's like, yeah.
Ready?
Bring her in.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, got it?
Yeah.
Right, lower it down.
A bit more.
Jaw end up. Yeah, keep going. A bit more.
How's that look on your end?
Yeah, that's it.
Looks nice. It almost looks bespoke, that bridge,
With the bridge in situ, there's a final flurry of activity as the team pushes to finish the garden. And what was a fairly typical British garden has been transformed into this exotic Zambian-inspired landscape. But will it get Archie and Manjula's all-important seal of approval?
Okay, we're going to spin you around a little bit.
Okay.
Ready? And open your eyes in your garden.
Wow.
What do you think?
Amazing.
I'm never lost for words.
Italian.
But I am.
This is just incredible, you know?
Wow.
Incredible. Wow.
This is really my garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he going to take my weight?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe
Oh.
The couple are thrilled, so there's just time for one more thing.
Well, that's definitely made me want to go on safari. Don't know about you guys.
Paying? Are you paying?
Yeah, all
Okay.
in. All inclusive.
See the big five?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do that. It does go to show, though, with some careful consideration with your plants, you can create an exotic look.
Even in old Blighty.
Well, we do hope you enjoyed a look back at some of our favourite exotic gardens.
And see you next time for some more Top of the Plots.
Charlie Dimmock,
Boys!
the Rich Brothers, and the Garden Rescue Team have a treat in store.
Too much entertainment.
They have come to the rescue of hundreds of British gardens. Now it's time to look back and pick their favourites.
This looks really cool.
Fabulous.
As they celebrate the very best.
I don't like it. I love it.
From extraordinary eco gardens
Thank you so much.
to exotic designs.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Gardens inspired by people
Is this the garden that you dreamed of?
Absolutely.
I think that's a thumbs up.
and places.
It's the most beautiful garden I've ever been in.
Therapeutic spaces
Wow.
and the most extraordinary transformations.
It is perfect.
Welcome to Garden Rescue.
Top of the plots. So, Harry, David, today it's all about transformations of gardens, making those huge changes from something that looks like a wreck into something that looks fantastic.
Come here, Charlie.
Very funny.
Yeah, we've had some real blank canvases, haven't we? They've given us no inspiration, no ideas. Some of the roughest, toughest, heavyweight battles.
One does spring to mind, I have to say, and it was literally like a back alley. I mean, ugh.
Are you talking about Jason and Esther's backyard? Perhaps, maybe a car park.
Yeah.
I think more car park than backyard.
Every garden rescue is a labour of love. But Jason and Esther's backyard was in need of a total transformation. It was nothing more than a concrete jungle with a shed plonked in the middle.
I don't know who planned it, but I mean, just pour down a whole load of concrete. Yeah, not good.
Not good at all.
Not good.
The team certainly had their work cut out. The Rich Brothers' winning design focused on creating a green and private space with a nod to Jason's previous career in the army, with a spectacular poppy meadow.
Let's do it.
But the first job for the landscapers is moving that shed.
There you go, there's all the heavy stuff for you. Okay, gently, gently. Gently, gently. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on, man, show. She's got a manhole cover we can't cover up, but that's it. So just forward, no, when that comes in, that'll be fine, look. So this in? Yeah, so now that's gonna sit over here. Look, it's obscured a bit by the wall. By the time there's plants in here, in the raised bed, you'll barely see it. Good man.
The brothers' design calls for large-framed raised beds edging a central decked area, so Carl sets to work removing the old brick beds and the patio, while everything else is cleared out. Andy can then make a start on breaking up the concrete.
Proper hard, this concrete. It's probably 6 inches thick, 150 mil thick, but it's, you know, some concretes they'll just break up and they'll just, you know, come out easy. Big lumps will come out. This, like, little bits are chipping off. So I'm very glad we're not taking it all out. I'm putting in some holes in it for drainage holes underneath the sleeper beds so that the water don't get trapped in there and so everything gets waterlogged. And that's it though. That's all we're doing, which is great.
Next, the mustard yellow shed has a quick makeover so it fits more sympathetically into the brothers' design. And work begins on the large decked area with the raised beds. First, the joists are laid out and screwed into place.
It's coming together.
Then the large sleepers can be stacked and fixed to create the walls of the planting areas.
So I'm just putting down the decking boards now onto the framework below. And actually, it's all about preparation when you're doing a deck. So the framework underneath is really, really important. What the landscapers did previously is actually laid out all these joists and noggings, get the preparation right with the base, and then it should be pretty fast. Pressure.
With the decking coming on, David's got further plans for the shed.
Now, this garden's all about deception. We're almost hiding the fact that the garden is actually built up from this concrete slab. Now, what I'm doing here is actually putting an abstract camouflage paint onto the shed, and that has a dual purpose. So it's a lovely homage to the idea that Jason had his past career in the army, but also it's just a lovely way of making it blend into some of the plants that we're putting into the garden.
Dave, where's the shed gone? Oh, there. It works.
The next task is a key part of the design. A living wall or vertical garden has to be built that will give privacy. And this is a job for Charlie.
So I'm thinking of running the fence right onto here.
Okay. A larch timber all the way through.
Yes.
Like that.
You can. Like that, yeah.
And then you do your living wall on that bit.
Yes.
And that's just a screen. So just one timber.
Now they've established where the posts need to go, Chris is on hand with his breaker to drill yet more holes into the concrete.
Still really noisy here. The tranquility of a beautiful garden is just a wonderful thing.
The posts are then secured into the holes with more of the grey stuff. The living wall or vertical garden will not only screen the deck from prying eyes, but help surround it with lush greenery. Charlie's keen the wall doesn't block access to the space, so she leaves a gap wide enough for a wheelbarrow, though not a small tree.
Did you see that? Just got thrashed by a lilac right in the choppers.
She also wants to construct troughs, which she'll attach to 3 of the horizontal planks and fill with soil. These will then be packed with plants to create the living wall. These small beds could also be planted with vegetables that can survive in shallow soil. Leafy greens like lettuce or short variety carrots will do well.
Actually got to the bit of putting the plants in now with this living wall. So all I've basically done is created these troughs in the screen, and then I'm going to plant it up. Now the troughs are actually quite narrow, there's not much soil, so I'm using plants that are quite robust. Now the ivies were very, very dry, so I've been soaking them in a bucket of water. And the great thing about when you buy ivies is that there's 4 or 5 plants per pot. So the ivy's going to go in there. Look. Ivies are in, trailing nicely, almost like a cascade of foliage in front of the screen. And just for a bit of zap of colour, the boys have asked me to use these begonias. I particularly like them because of the green and the red contrast. Begonia semperflorens. Semper means forever, florens means flower.
Exactly, and I just came over to say how happy I am that you used the plant, the exact plant that we wanted you to.
You mean I'm doing what I'm told to do?
Wow.
So this means that forever flowering, which means they flower all summer long.
Fantastic.
I mean,
Look at
couldn't have been
that.
better news. We'll let you be.
Sure you don't want to take some home for your new garden?
Go on then.
With the living wall complete, David cracks on with the all-important poppy meadow.
To give it that quite informal look, I'm going to be drawing out these little pockets of beds, and that's where we're going to put the poppy within. Cool, wandering path.
And with the concrete dug up, David and Harry get on with their planting.
And there's a reason that we haven't used the classic memorial poppy in this garden, and that's because it's actually an annual, so it is less reliable than the oriental poppy here, which has a permanent summer presence. Now, it gives exactly the same effect, but with a slightly larger flower, so it really does have a lovely impact within the space. So all throughout the season, it's going to be a really powerful plant in the garden.
Now, we didn't want to occupy this whole space with the poppies. Yes, they're beautiful and they've got such an impact, but we actually wanted to knit them amongst a few other perennials, one of which is salvia. And now orange and purple have a lovely contrasting colour, so it really makes the poppies stand out. And the second is Cicericium. Now, that has an evergreen leaf, quite opposing to the poppies, and it means it holds this structure and holds this side of the garden together when the poppies die down. And those all together create a lovely kind of impactful garden that has plenty of colour.
What passed for Jason and Esther's garden was nothing more than a grey, oppressive space. But the Rich brothers rose to the challenge of transforming it. They've created a comfortable, secluded haven packed with lush plants and flowers. But what will the couple think?
So, open your eyes. Oh, wow. Where's my car park?
It's not even the same garden anymore, is it? It's not even the same space anymore. It's just absolutely transformed. It's amazing.
The garden is absolutely fantastic. It's everything we asked for.
And more.
And more.
That really was a wonderful transformation.
Yeah, it was.
Got to say that camouflage shed, mark of genius.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hedges are a great way of disguising those unsightly things within your garden. Now, this beech hedge must be 3-4 metres tall, and it's doing a great job at dividing this garden. And when you have quite an open space, it's lovely to subdivide it into these different rooms.
Now, there are loads of different species that you can use. This one's beech, but along with hornbeam, they're actually semi-evergreen. So they start to copper off in autumn, but the leaves don't fall off until the new ones emerge in spring. So that's really wonderful because you get to celebrate the seasons. Evergreen ones like box or yew, really classic, really wonderful to use.
Talking of structure and rooms, one garden that had none of that was actually Kerry and Mark's garden in Corby.
Yeah, it was a new build, wasn't it? Basically, fences, turf, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they meant a pub, didn't they?
I think they did, and that's why Charlie put a bar in their garden.
This drab, featureless space was so characterless that Mark and Kerry didn't even know where to begin. So they called the garden rescue team.
Totally uninspiring.
Inspired at the moment, it's just a
There's
square.
nothing.
Charlie's winning design aims to transform this desolate space with a funky wooden bar, topped with a plant-covered pergola to provide shade. And the team waste no time.
So I sold Kerry and Mark the idea of a shabby chic bar in their patio area, just for a bit of fun. But I want it, you know, proper bar. Foot rail, high enough to lean on it, overhanging bar bit so you can tuck the stools underneath. Even a swag of lights.
Round the front, David and Harry are getting started on the accessories for the bar.
A lovely byproduct of having all of these materials delivered to the garden are these pallets. Now, some of them can arrive a little bit tattered, but this one here is in good condition, so it'd be lovely to recycle it into the garden. And continuing with that pub garden theme, I think I'm going to make something quite in-fitting with this guy here.
Upcycling old wood into tables or seating is a great cost-effective way to add a rustic touch. Harry's knocking up a couple of bar stools for Kerry and Mark to perch on.
In essence, it's a very simple construction, and it's almost a systematic approach. By cutting these legs, you've got 4 of them, and in turn I'm going to cut some little smaller pieces, very similar like this, and they're going to fit in between. I'm going to screw them together, and that's going to create a lovely rigid framework for the stool. Now these posts, they're 3 by 3 inch, and they're softwood and treated, so they're going to have a lovely bit of longevity. And they roughly cost about £16, so that's a very cost-effective way of creating a bit of bespoke seating in your garden.
And as opposed to Harry's more systematic approach, I definitely call this one free-form jazz. So I'm having a little bit of fun with it. What it's going to be a drinks shelf and a wine glass rack. So it's going to be cut off to about there. This is going to be the shelf where the bottles will go. Then underneath that will be another shelf with some notches cut out where we'll slot on the wine glasses. So it looks a little bit rustic at the moment, but I have no doubt that it's going to look great in the end.
Out back, the hard landscaping is really taking shape and Charlie can start planting. A considerable amount of the budget and time will be given over to horticulture to bring this place to life.
First plant going in, and what a plant! And absolutely perfect for this spot. This is the bar area. This is a vine, an ornamental grapevine. It's got these fantastic tri-lobed leaves, which look fabulous with the sun shining through them. And it's a really vigorous climber. And it's known as the Crimson Glory vine, because come the autumn, it changes the most amazing colours. You get red, scarlet, orange, absolutely amazing. And the reason I've chosen it for here is I want it to go up and over the top to make this nice shady walkway leading to the bar patio, but at the same time block the view into the garden from those houses. So it's actually creating a roof on top of the pergola.
There are other vigorous climbers to choose from if you're looking for quick growth and cover. Honeysuckle is fabulous for its sweet scent, Mile a Minute lives up to its name and has pretty white bracts, and Virginia Creeper has autumn colour. Out front, David is sanding off the rough edges of his wine rack, and the bar has been constructed and just needs positioning.
Here it comes!
Not finished yet.
Not finished?
It's too heavy to build it all out there.
So even if Kerry gets up and dances on it, it's not going to tip over?
Yeah, it's going to tip over. She can dance on this. Drop it on this slab there, mate.
Is that an oak top you've got there?
That's oak top, yeah.
Cut that! Wow. Man walks into a bar. Ow.
I'll get your coat.
All joking aside, no self-respecting outdoor bar would be complete without some bright and colourful planting.
Powder blues, whites, and a few daisies mixed in as well. So in actual fact, those colours are really quite calming colours. And as this is going to be an area where everyone sits and relaxes, I wanted the colours to make them feel relaxed. So that's why I've gone for all the soft, pale, cool colours.
When planting a container, it works well when you have something to add height, something medium-sized for colour, and something to trail over the edge like ivy or petunias. The bar is really shaping up to be a showpiece.
Oh, fantastic. This bar's getting better and better.
While there's a frenzy of activity in the garden. The boys have been busy making hanging baskets for the bar to be judged by Charlie.
I've only got one in so far. I'm a little bit scared. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh!
Let the judging
begin. Which one goes where?
Do you want that one around the front?
If you don't want this in the garden, not a problem. Really, not a problem.
that we put one up there.
Don't actually
your
want my name
one,
to-
next door's garden. No, no. Let's pop
I
yours.
am not offended in the slightest.
Pop yours here, and then I reckon yours, matey boy. Actually, I think it'd be better there, don't you? Because if it's there and you walk through, you're going to hit your head on it. Yeah. Even us short people. Well, I'm short.
I mean, I'm not up in the clouds, am I?
You are sometimes when you're thinking.
With the hanging baskets in place and the bar set up with David's wine rack and Harry's stools, as well as some comfy furniture to relax on, the garden is finished.
Oh,
Nice, is it?
delicious lemonade.
Delicious.
Last orders, ladies and gents.
Kerry and Mark's garden was the dictionary definition of a blank canvas. No plants, no trees, no structure. But after this magnificent transformation from Charlie, the couple finally have a place to entertain and relax.
Oh my God, it's gorgeous. Oh my God, I can't take it all in.
It's not our garden. Fridays now, I will be looking forward to even more now, to sit in my own bar, my own garden.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
To relax.
Yeah.
With a drinky poos.
Now, I'm sure the boys won't mind me saying their hanging baskets probably weren't the best, eh? But hanging baskets can be a bit tricky, especially if you're doing them later in the season. Ideally, you want to start them off from very young plants going in, especially if you want to feed them in and around the side so that they grow into one big globe of colour. But if you want to spruce up the patio area or your bar area for a party, which I'm sure they're having lots of in Corby, then this is the way to go. Choose your hanging baskets. Now, hanging baskets dry out really quickly, so you can either go for ones that are lined with plastic and you just pierce the holes about an inch or so up so you get a reservoir of water, or you can use a normal saucer that you'd put underneath your plant pot in the bottom of your hanging basket, so there'll always be a little reservoir of water build up there, because with hanging baskets you're going to be watering them at least once a day, in the summertime probably twice a day. And when it comes to the plants, just choose 2 or 3 varieties. If you go for more, it all gets a bit sort of messy, so I've gone for some nice lemon pansies, pink pelargoniums, and then some ivies to trail, which you can then weave in. And you can get potting compost that has already got moisture retention crystals in, which makes life much easier. And with hanging baskets, you want to be feeding regularly and deadheading regularly. Another little handy tip: water in the morning nice and early, and then during the day maybe put 3 or 4 ice cubes on the compost, and they slowly melt and drip into the soil, and then that way the soil stays moist, and then come the evening you can water again. And pop those in. There we go. Pick up the chain. Ta-da! So all that needs now is a good water, and when you hang it up, make sure the bracket you put it on can take the weight, because it's quite heavy. And for our next transformation, Steve and Nadine in Cardiff, whose garden was literally a building site.
Our next top of the plot's garden transformation was for Nadine and Steve. Their space was less than inspiring for their 2 children, so the Rich Brothers design focused on creating a family-friendly oasis with dry stone walls and a children's play area. And once the garden is cleared of all that debris, the first job is tackling the dry stone walls.
Traditionally, farmers and labourers used to use a stone that was just lying around. So all the walls you see kind of out in the fields and in the distant landscape were all made on site. What we're doing is we're kind of introducing more of a modern element to that. So we're using this crop stone, which is usually about 5-6 inches in width. And that makes it a little bit easier because uncropped stone comes as it is, really random sizes, and it means it's a little bit more tricky. But that's what I kind of love about stone walling, is that it is a puzzle. Every stone is different, and you can never make the same stone wall the same way. So we always say every stone has a home. So, Dave, you try and find a home for him.
No, don't give me the pressure of that.
Giving you a difficult one.
You have, haven't you? What about there, boss?
Why not?
I thought it was every gnome has a home.
I'm pretty sure it was every toad has a moan.
Are you saying I'm an old toad moaning?
No.
Oh!
I mean, he's pushing it now, isn't he?
He's pushing it. The toys might come out of the pram.
If dry stone walling is a little daunting, this could be made with bricks and cement, something the boys are also cheekily using.
So we're doing a tiny bit of a cheat on this wall. So on the outside, it's going to have the dry stone wall effect. So we've used no mortar to bed the stone in, so it's got that lovely traditional look. But on the inside then, we've got this mix of cement, which is going to connect and bind them all together, making it nice and sturdy.
Oh, I feel you shouldn't beat yourself up too much there. I wouldn't say cheat. I'd like to say modern interpretation.
That's a lovely way of thinking.
It is. It's nice, a bit more artsy, isn't it? But actually, I think it's 100% necessary with this. Because it's being used as a bench, as a seat, it's going to get a lot of usage.
Traditionally, with stone wall, you put the stones in, and then the offcuts like this, you pack underneath to make it all nice and tight. But you also use tie stones, and they lie across the whole width of the wall like this. And what they do is they kind of hold the wall together. Without these tie stones, the wall would just fall apart, so they're really key.
With so much dry stone walling to build, it's down to Charlie to make a start on the children's play area.
Right then, Scotty. You ready for this?
I am indeed.
So this is going to be the children's play area, but tasteful, not big pink things and trampolines.
First job, a raised wooden walkway through the plants for Effie to balance on and use as a seat.
So step up onto that, about that high. Then step up a bit more onto that. Then step down onto that. But I thought it would be really good if that was joined together, yeah? Because I think balancing like that...
A nice little turn.
Is it,
Tricky.
Tricky, but that's really good for children and adults to sort of make it a little bit difficult, not too high, because if you make it very high, then you've got to make sure that there's a cushioned fall. But we're literally going to go up just a small step and then another small step. So it probably won't be more than about 8 inches high at the highest.
The children's boardwalk must be absolutely safe, so Scott secures the posts with cement.
Almost got some mix in the hole.
While Harry and David move on to the second wall, which is L-shaped, Charlie's able to make a start on the other feature of the children's area, a swing made from chunky sleepers.
So we're going, what, 18 inches?
Yep.
I reckon. What we're doing is doing a frame for the swing. If you had an A-frame shape, then you wouldn't have to go in quite so deep into the ground. But having an A-frame, it makes it way more obvious. So we're just putting the sleepers in, so it'll just be like an upright arch with the swing at the bottom, and we've left enough space so that there's no chance of hitting the balancing beams. And then from the kitchen window, this will just look like an upright timber with a climber going up it. So it won't look like a swing at all.
The stone walls are really starting to take shape.
Look at that finishes her off.
And in no time at all, the frame for the swing has come together, although there's one small hiccup.
It's very annoying. The sleepers aren't the same size. Rustic. But that's fine. That's all right, It's right.
You can make a simple swing seat by threading rope through holes bored in a piece of timber, but be sure to tie some excellent knots. And with the swing in place, there's just time to add the finishing flourishes. And the garden is finished. Before they called on the help of the garden rescue team, Nadine and Steve's outdoor space was nothing more than a building plot. Now the Rich brothers have spent every penny of the £5,000 budget, and it's undergone a complete transformation. Time to find out what Nadine and Steve think.
So open your eyes.
Oh, look at this! What do you think, Effie?
Whoa.
Bit different, isn't it? It's amazing.
Wow.
Yes, 2 wows.
I just can't believe it. I really love it. I really do.
It's just fantastic, the way that everything's come together in the brief, and we wanted multifunctional and something that would be for the children as well as for the adults, and it's just, yeah, it's great. It's been nailed, totally.
We all have walls and structures in our garden, and by simply putting up some climbers like this clematis, there's a wisteria around the corner, or maybe a beautiful rambling or climbing rose, and that's going to completely transform what would be a bare wall. And transforming the view was one of the issues we had in Birkenhead.
Joanne's small back garden was plain and overgrown, with a terrible view.
I really like the idea of just having a little bit of country in what is at the moment quite a built-up urban area, maybe an orchard. So it feels a bit special.
This was one rescue that required some creative thinking. Charlie's winning design featured lots of stone, timber walls, and a small orchard to help block that building. But the first job for the team is to rip the old decking out.
We're saving that one.
Everything must go, even the balustrade. Next, Andy makes a start with the rocks that feature heavily in Charlie's design.
So what are you doing?
We've just chiselled some sort of flat areas on the bottom of the stones. It's quite rough.
Right.
Put some big anchor screws in there.
Yeah.
Drilled the holes in the stone. We're going to put some chemical fix in there and then drop these in.
And then we can adjust the depth.
Yeah, you can sink this in the ground to wherever you want.
Yeah.
So you can set the height.
Good.
Okay.
The plan at the back of the garden is to transform it into a meadow with an orchard that in time will block out the horrible view.
I think this space looks a little bit bleak at the moment, but, you know, to get that lovely country kind of theme that Joanna wants, introduce a bit of meadow in here, it's going to be beautiful.
Gorgeous. I think it's nice having a natural boundary to it, isn't it? Obviously a bit of an eyesore behind. Once you get some trees, some long grass, recycling some of the long grass that she's been growing, yeah. I think it'll look gorgeous.
And they've made an interesting discovery about the soil.
And the decking was previously here, but it's all been lifted. And what we found is that the soil underneath is not that great. I mean, it's really free draining and quite poor. And that's what meadow loves. So by introducing meadow into this back area, it's really going to thrive. And it's got a nice bit of sun coming in as well. So a pinch of colour at the end of the garden. Charlie's done well.
No meadow is complete without green pastures. But there's no need to buy new turf. The team is cleverly moving grass from one end of the garden to the other.
Recycle, recycle, recycle.
Meanwhile, at the sunny end of the garden, the brothers are erecting the timber walls.
Cheers, man, thank you.
Lovely, cheers, boys.
This garden was a real blank canvas. And within Charlie's design, by bringing in these timber walls, it's really helped to give a bit of structure and also break it up. And by introducing 2 of them, what we've done is we've created rooms within the space.
There's lots of different ways of kind of creating these structures in gardens. Obviously, Charlie's got this timber wall here, but you can have stone walls, you can have rendered walls, and you know those hard, solid structures are going to be great for kind of creating that shape in the garden. But also, shrubs and trees are great to use as well.
And with the sleeper walls in place, and the paving and gravel laid, Joanna's garden is really starting to take shape. Charlie's also incorporating an unconventional water feature fashioned from an old water tank.
So this is a lovely old galvanised header tank, which we've sealed up. And it's just another texture, and it never really goes rusty. I know you boys love rusty.
Ooh, yeah. Gorgeous.
Practical,
And beautiful.
And beautiful,
Eh?
just like me.
Exactly.
I had to get that in because you weren't going to say it, were you?
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, yeah, Pinocchio.
I was going to say it.
This one here. So 180.
Keep going round there.
Oh!
The stone seat is finished and now just needs placing in the sunniest part of the garden. Although finding exactly the right spot doesn't prove easy.
Can this go back a bit? Yeah. Is that all right?
No.
And I don't mind. Yeah, no.
I think it's pretty cool, isn't it?
So the lovely thing about stone in the garden is it looks beautiful, and once it's in position, it's going to stay there. The downside is it's quite heavy, hence I'm stood watching. That is it. You've got it, boys.
The team is making sterling progress and the garden is coming together beautifully. Charlie's about to plant the first tree for the new orchard that'll eventually block the awful view. But first, David cuts a piece of pipe to insert into the ground so the tree roots can be easily watered.
As you can see, the root ball is nice and wet, and it's going to be a case of placing it up, putting our watering pipe in. I'm going to hide it around the back so you can't really see it, and filling it up with soil and heeling it in. So that means getting your boot in and swashing the soil down so that it's firmly in the ground. So watering is a key factor when you're establishing a new tree, because that's one of the main killers of trees when they're newly planted.
With the last few plants in place and some final details, the garden is finished. And what was an uninviting space has been transformed into a relaxing garden where Joanna can get away from it all. Time to find out, though, if Charlie has delivered.
OK, Jo, have a look at your new garden.
Oh, gracious! I think it's amazing.
Yeah?
I love it.
So far, our transformational gardens have all had one thing in common. They've been relatively flat. Working on a slope can be a major problem, and Kim and Simon found that out in Newport.
Our final top of the plot's fantastic transformation was in Simon and Kim's garden. It may have stunning views across a Welsh valley, but it consisted of nothing but mounds of soil.
The garden is a mess. You need climbing boots out there at the minute.
The Rich brothers won the pitch with a design that features materials sympathetic to the landscape. But before the 3 terraces could be created, the team got to work doing some serious digging.
Got these boys up here turning this over, getting the weeds out, getting that ready to level properly. Got a couple down the bottom there, levelling that out, ready for the paving to go in.
With the garden levelled, next, a layer of beaten gravel is added to form the foundation for the retaining walls that create the tiers. These are built from timber sleepers, which will later be faced with the sheets of weathered steel. But first, the team have to shift 15 tons of soil to create the tiers and dig out the steps, all of which has to be moved by hand.
Now, this garden has been designed with 3 different terraces. This lower one is very practical. It's been laid a slab, but has a lovely undefined quality that merges with the rest of the garden. And then this middle terrace is actually a little bit more undefined again. So slowly as we move up, we're getting more natural. Now, this is going to be bound gravel. It's also going to be a very intimate space with shrubs surrounding it, just to create a lovely private area.
And as we journey through then up onto the final terrace, it becomes all about the view. Now, it's going to be really simple here. It's just going to be lawn, but the whole idea is that they can sit down, they can look back and just really enjoy the view and the surroundings around them.
With the timber retaining walls built, it's time to add the impressive steel sheets. But getting them up the hill proves a little tricky.
Right. To me, to me.
Oh! I'm not built for this stuff. I'm built for speed and agility. So the steel is here. Thank goodness for that, because it is the key material within this garden. It's one of the main reasons that Kim and Simon chose our design. Now, these sheets cost £160 each. They're about 2.5 metres by 1.2. But for the area that they cover, I think that's actually quite cost effective.
This weathered steel differs from ordinary steel. It's an alloy which guards against erosion, and over time, these sheets will develop an outer layer of what looks like rust, but actually protects rather than damages the metal beneath. Zinc or copper sheets could be used instead.
Now, already now with these copper nails, it's really starting to look gorgeous. And what Susie's doing now is just gridding out where we're going to pre-drill the holes and actually put the nails themselves. So not only is the sheet going to look gorgeous, but actually the nails are going to look great, because it's quite important. It's going to take a while for it to rust and really age and blend in together. So until then, this grid of copper nails is going to look really smart. I think it's super nice to be able to use steel, especially in Newport. You know, this part of Wales has got a deep-rooted heritage with steel and the whole industry. So I think to be able to put that into a garden, have that slight nod to the past is really lovely as well.
On the middle terrace, Harry's ready to make a start on his project.
Lovely. Well, I've had a good look around and I managed to find one scaffolding board and also some 2-inch by 2-inch timber. And I think it's enough to create my little bench. I've done my little doodle now, so I'm happy. So I've just got to get cutting and get making. So what I'm doing now is I'm using a countersink, and that really creates a nice little inlet so that when I screw the screw into this piece of wood, the head of it disappears and becomes quite flush and sunken into the wood, so it's a nice seamless finish. Right, take a look. Nestle it in. Take a seat, and it works. I think it's nice because it's got a lovely rustic appearance to it. It's very simple and easy to do. And really, it's going to fit beautifully into this garden because that top terrace is all about taking in that view, enjoying it. And there's no better way to do that than actually being able to sit down and relax. So I think the next thing is give it a little sand and position it, but you can be more pleased.
The brothers have chosen a number of shrubs and ornamental grasses for structure, with splashes of colour provided by plume thistle, penstemon, monkshood, and the bright white star-shaped wood aster.
And the plants are going in. It's nice and busy in the garden, and it's starting to give that lovely soft and natural character. What we've done here is we've actually put a wash of water and salt on the weathered steel, and that's actually sped up that chemical reaction. As you can see, it's already starting to get that rusted patina, and that's linking really nicely with some of the plants that we're putting in front of it. Now, not only does you want to feel soft and natural with the planting, but also the key was to use certain shrubs and trees to link with the further landscape. Now, one of the key ones is birch. You look in the distance there, you can see their white stems, and you can see their leaves now starting to turn. So actually, having them in the garden was essential to create that connection.
Simon and Kim's garden was nothing but a pile of soil on a 45-degree hill. But the Rich Brothers design turned it into this stunning garden, costing £5,000, with 3 clearly defined terraces, each offering a different environment to relax in. How will Simon and Kim react to the changes?
So, 3, 2, 1, open your eyes.
Oh, look at that. That is unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Is it really the same place?
No, it's not at all.
No, it's not. No. Yeah.
What do you think?
That's incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yay!
Thanks.
No worries, it's a pleasure.
Absolutely remarkable.
Oh, wonderful, guys.
Good, I'm glad you like it.
I can't believe you've done this.
The garden is absolutely spectacular, isn't it?
It's astonishing. It's quite astonishing.
Amazing, and I think it's the most beautiful garden I've ever been in. I really, really do. And it's mine.
Crikey, I mean, looking back at those gardens almost brings me back out in a sweat. They were all really challenging, but well worth it.
Yeah, and I love the steel in that garden, using a different material. It was really quite lovely, the contrast with the Welsh hills.
Oh.
And what a hill!
It was, yeah.
Some great transformations there, boys. And I'm sure there's many more to come.